Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, I'm going to be discussing Week 5 wide receiver start or sit decisions for fantasy football in 2020. We are going to go over the whole Week 5 NFL slate from Thursday all the way until Monday night and discuss whether I would start or sit the wide receivers in each given matchup. Now, if at any point in this video you end up enjoying, you end up having a good time, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2020 Fantasy Football Championship. And real quick, before we get into the Week 5 wide receiver start or sets, I'd also like to give you guys a word from my friends and my sponsor over at OverlayDFS.com. OverlayDFS.com is the best place to play daily fantasy sports on the whole World Wide Web. Now, how does it work, you might ask? In the Matchup Shop, their new game that they debuted for the 2020 NFL season, it is simple. You are picking players head to head based upon who is going to score more fantasy football points, plus or minus the spread. Now, in the instance of the Thursday games, two of them have the spread. Tom Brady, minus 9.5 versus Nick Foles, and then Nick Foles gets plus 9.5, and then Anthony Miller gets plus 0 versus Jimmy Graham plus 0. So pretty much all it is, who scores more fantasy points, plus or minus the spread. I make videos every single week on this, so make sure you guys check that out. If you want to win some money, make sure you guys use that knowledge that you put every single week to win your fantasy lineups. Why not win some young moolah baby in these games? Check it out, OverlayDFS.com. And we are back. Please make sure to check out OverlayDFS.com, link down below in the description. Let's get right into it. Week 5 wide receiver start or sit decisions. We begin with the Thursday night matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Chicago Bears. Now, yesterday, it appears that Mike Evans, Scotty Miller, Chris Godwin, all fucking 4 of their main wide receivers are banged up. Now, I do expect Mike Evans to play as well as Scotty Miller, but Chris Godwin seems like he is far less than likely going to play in this game. I don't think he's going to play at all, so he's in my sit category for this matchup up against the Bears. I think Mike Evans will have a fine game. This is a tougher matchup, though, up against the Chicago Bears, so don't expect a humongous game out of him. For Scotty Miller, in kind of a deeper kind of league, or if you're kind of screwed at the flex position, but make sure not to play your flex guy, even if your flex guy is Scotty Miller, make sure you put him as your wide receiver too and put someone else in as your flex because injuries do happen. This is a Thursday night game. For the Bears, I like Allen Robinson in this matchup. Now, the Bucs defense is pretty difficult, but 9-inch Nick Foles is just feeding Allen Robinson the ball all the time. He's literally peppering him with targets all game long, and I think that Allen Robinson could definitely have a big matchup here going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even in a tougher kind of matchup. Like I said, I am sitting down Chris Godwin, though, due to the injury. I highly doubt that he's going to go ahead and get the nod to play on Thursday. Anthony Miller just has not really proved anything to me yet this season. He's been good. Well, he has because he's been hot, and then there's games where he's cold, so he's really inconsistent. And going up against the Bears, or up against the Buccaneers defense, I should say, that's really not a matchup that I would try to exploit against those corners. So next one here, we got the Bills at the Les Titans, the Buffalo Bills at the Tennessee Titans. Now, this game right now is in question if it is even going to happen due to Tennessee Titans players continuing to get the big Rona. So with that said, take this with a grain of salt. I would right now expect them to play, but understand again, this game may not end up happening. The Titans may have 2 byes in a row. If this game does end up happening, though, I do not like any of these Titans players. A.J. Brown coming back from an injury. They're not even in the practice facilities, I don't believe, in Tennessee, so it just seems like a complete and utter shit show for them, especially up against these Bills corners. A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, to me, would be sit-down players for this week. Not guys that I would normally sit down, but in this matchup would be guys that I would like to ride the bench. For the Bills, I like Stefon Diggs as well as John Brown in this game. Stefon Diggs is a locked and loaded start on a weekly basis, even up against the Titans defense. I just feel like Stefon Diggs is always ready to be fired up, and while I didn't believe in him really that much to begin the season, I'm all bought in on Stefon Diggs now. Josh Allen is looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and one of his favorite options on that team, if not his favorite option, is Stefon Diggs. John Brown did have a dud 2 games ago, but that's because he ended up getting hurt. Then he played quite well the week before that in week 3, obviously, or week 4, I think it was, when he played good again. So I think John Brown will be fine. I think he should have a fine game here up against the Tennessee Titans. Definitely worthy of a start this week, given this game happens. Next game here, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars at Houston Texans. So in this game, I like DJ Chark. That Houston defense is absolutely atrocious. Now, they did end up firing their head coach, Bill O'Brien, and Romeo Crennel, I believe, is going to be the interim head coach now. So that might be better because Bill O'Brien's a goddamn idiot, but it shouldn't affect their defense because this is not really the play calling that's screwing over the defense. It's just the talent. Not very good. good. The Jaguars the Jaguars offense should be able to easily gash them in this one. DJ Chark put up a big spot last week up against the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he'll be able to put up another big spot here up against that Houston defense. For Will Fuller, this guy is pretty much a win healthy. You have to start him. Now, he is kind of a boom or bust wide receiver, but when he's healthy, you legitimately just have to play him strictly based on the upside. This week he gets the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is kind of a cupcake matchup for a wide receiver, and I think maybe Deshaun Watson will be fired up now that that dumbass Bill O'Brien is gone. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, I would also be sitting Laviska Shenault, Keelan Cole, any of those guys, really. I think Laviska has the most upside out of any of those other Jaguars wide receivers, but at the end of the day, I just don't really feel ultra confident starting him on a weekly basis. For the Texans, Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb, and friends are just not really worthy of starts. Brandon Cooks has been very disappointing thus far this season. I really expected him to move on to the Houston Texans and put up a productive season, but that just has not been the case thus far this year. Maybe he is able to turn it on a couple more weeks into the season, but as of right now, I have no belief in Brandon Cooks. Next game here, we got the Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. Now, in this game, I like Hollywood Brown for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, he has been very boom or bust this season, a very fragile player when it comes to a week in, week out consistency. With that said, he gets the Cincinnati Bengals this week, and the Bengals probably will not be able to stop Hollywood Brown's speed at all in this game. Based upon the defensive matchup, I really like Hollywood Brown in this game. For the Bengals, Tyler Boyd is a must-start week in and week out. I understand that the Baltimore Ravens do have a pretty solid pretty solid defense. They obviously have a pretty solid offense, but Tyler Boyd is not necessarily the wide receiver one on the team, at least based on the corner matchup. Most times they play, the corner one likely matches up against AJ Green, which really helps out Tyler Boyd because he's not the wide receiver or getting the best corner on the team. Joe Burrow seems to love to throw the ball to Tyler Boyd, and I love starting Tyler Boyd in my lineup. For the sits, I will sit down T. Higgins. This is a tough matchup, but obviously if you picked him up and you had to play him, there's obviously a lot worse options than T. Higgins. AJ Green just seems completely washed up. He can't do anything up against the best corner on each team, and it just seems like a very failed comeback for him. He sat out all of last year due to injury. He was probably fine to come back 5 weeks in, but he waited for Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow comes here. He's trying to throw the ball to AJ Green, and this guy just has fucking butter all over his fingers. He just cannot catch anything. He couldn't even catch the Rona if it came his way. Knock on wood. I obviously don't want some guy to get fucking Corona. So, with that said, I don't like AJ Green at all this week. For the Ravens, it's really just Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson are the only startable pieces on that offense. So, Willie Snead, Miles Boykin, sure, one of those guys is going to have a big game every other week, but there's really no rhyme or reason to start one of them because of how impossible it is to predict on a weekly basis which one of those guys is going to find the green in that end zone. Next game here, we got the Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Atlanta Falcons look like a certified dumpster fire in the NFL. The fact that Dan Quinn still has a job is a blessing from what could only be the football gods, that this man still has a job, because it's hilarious to watch his coaching. Now, the defense actually did look pretty solid up against the Green Bay Packers. They still ended up losing by 7 zillion points because Robert Tonyan shoved his cock straight up their ass. But with that said, the Panthers at the Falcons is a solid matchup. The Panthers are 2-2 now with 2 wins in a row. The Falcons fall to 0-4. DJ Moore, this is the game where he is going to blow up. He has played like absolute dick cheese the last couple of weeks. It's because in reality, Teddy Bridgewater's number one wide receiver is not DJ Moore. I personally thought it would be, since in my opinion, he's the much more talented asset in that Panthers offense. But it turns out that he loves Robbie Anderson, but I like both in this game. Going up against the Atlanta Falcons, that defense not very good. We even saw multiple, even with the bad wide receivers that were being played for the Green Bay Packers, the main guy, Devontae Adams, is hurt, and they're still playing well. Tells me that the Panthers should be able to do it, considering the Panthers have been playing quite well as of recently. For the Atlanta Falcons, I like Calvin Ridley in this game. Calvin Ridley got held to a goose egg on Monday night last week, and I just think Calvin Ridley is going to have a big bounce-back spot. He had 4 100-yard games, or 3 100-yard games in a row, and then put up a goose egg, obviously up against the tough corners in Green Bay, but I expect much better of a bounce-back game up against the Panthers. For Julio Jones, I'm not even too sure if he plays or not. He re-aggravated that hamstring injury. Probably should have sat out another game. Tried to play. Kind of fucked him over. Maybe he only sat out because he knew the Falcons were going to lose, right? He was like, you know what? Why would I waste my body on this game? Kind of like what Megatron did in Detroit. He said, why would I waste my body on this? Fuck that shit. I'm retiring. Julio Jones didn't retire. Just didn't come back into the game. If he plays, though, you're kind of stuck starting him, unless you have other pretty solid options. For the Falcons, I'm not starting Russell Gage. Just don't really feel confident in him anymore. It seems like Olamide Zacchaeus is the wide receiver 3 maybe on the team. I don't know. I mean, I told you guys to pick him up in a deeper league, but I wouldn't really feel confident playing him. I would kind of have to see it on a 2-week sample size for Olamide Zaccheaus. Next game here, we got the Las Vegas Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. Here we have another game that could be affected by the big Rona because Stephon Gilmore, cornerback of the Patriots, gave Patrick Mahomes a nice hug. They played against them last week, so maybe this one gets screwed over by Corona, but as of right now, the Kansas City Chiefs have all tested negative to the big Rona, so the game should be fine. In my opinion, if I'm being honest with you, I probably would just... If I was the NFL, I'd probably just kind of delay the games and just put the guys in a bubble, maybe delay the season by a month and then do that, but they're not going to end up doing that because they want the money, understandably. Obviously, I just want the season to continue, so that would be my best idea on that. But back to the games, Tyreek Hill I like in this matchup up against the Raiders. Tyreek Hill on a weekly basis is a start no matter of the defense, strictly based on his big play potential, and in this game, there could be a lot of those up against the Raiders. For the Oakland Raiders, I do not really like anyone on this offense. Who knows if Ruggs is going to play? Who knows if you even want to start Hunter Renfrow? So it's kind of a shit show this Raiders offense has been as of recently, at least at the wide receiver position. Not really any guys of note to be starting. For the Chiefs, Sammy Watkins as well as Mecole Hardman are easy benches in my opinion. I just really have no idea on a weekly basis which one it's going to be. It's really based off of the big play in the game. So you're kind of hoping to the fantasy gods that one of those guys hit when you start them. So I'd rather just put them on my bench. If you guys have ended up enjoying this video thus far, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Next game here, we got the Arizona Cardinals at the New York Football Jets. Now, reports just came in a couple of minutes ago that Joey Flacco is going to be the starting quarterback for the New York Football Jets. Apparently, Sam Darnold, who literally looked perfectly fine, right? He literally got hurt in that game, comes back, looks perfectly fine on Thursday night up against the Denver Broncos. Now they're sending him, clearly trying to tank. I have no idea what's happening. But with that said, there's not even if Sammy Mono was playing, I wouldn't feel confident starting any of these Jets wide receivers anyway. So Rashad Perryman and all the other Jets wide receivers are pretty much irrelevant to me. For the Arizona Cardinals, I like DeAndre Hopkins going up against the New York Football Jets. That Jets defense is piss poor, and DeAndre Hopkins is going to have a pissing contest all over that defense. I expect DeAndre Hopkins to potentially be the number one wide receiver when the week comes to a close. For the rest of the Arizona Cardinals, don't really feel ultra confident starting a guy like Larry Fitz or Christian Kirk. While one of them could have a big game here up against the New York Football Jets, they definitely will. Not even a probably will, because that Jets defense is so shit. I don't really know which one it'll be, so I don't really feel ultra confident in either of those guys. Next matchup here, we got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Steel Curtain, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, in this game, I like Juju Smith-Schuster as well as Deontay Johnson. Juju Smith-Schuster, probably the number one guy in that Steelers offense. Now, the only reason why I say probably is because in a lot of these games, Deontay Johnson has been targeted more than Juju Smith-Schuster, but that doesn't mean Juju Smith-Schuster is some type of bum. This Eagles defense does not look all that good, and both these guys should be able to have a field day up against the Philadelphia Eagles. This would be Deontay Johnson's return from the concussion protocol that he got put on after getting injured in week number 3. For the Eagles, it's just a shit show, to be honest with you. I was really confident in Greg Ward last week. Carson Wentz looks like an absolute garbage can with cleats, so I don't really think that I'd feel confident starting Greg Ward or anyone else really in that Eagles organization besides maybe Miles Sanders. I guess Miles Sanders, but even Zach Ertz to me is very risky at this point. Next game here, we got the LA Rams at the Washington Football Team. Some more news here. The Washington Football Team said, Dwayne Haskins, get the fuck out of here. Now, my assessment on this is he's getting traded 100% because he's not even the number 2 option on the team. Now they have Alex Smith as the quarterback number 2 on the team. Kyle Allen gets the nod here up against the LA Rams. With that said, can it be worse for Terry McLaurin? I don't really think so. I think it's going to be either about the same or slightly better with Kyle Allen under center. I think Terry McLaurin is a great wide receiver, and great wide receivers get things done, even in tougher matchups here, probably likely going up against Mr. Jalen Ramsey. Now, for the LA Rams, Robert Woods has looked very good in the last couple of games, as has Cooper Kupp. This Washington football defense really poses no concern for the wide receiver position. Obviously, they are very good at rushing the passer, so Jared Goff may be a bit spooked in this one, but that should not really affect Bobby Trees or Cooper Kupp. For the Rams, I'm not starting Van Jefferson or any of the other Washington wide receivers, if I'm being honest with you, especially now with Kyle Allen becoming the starting quarterback. I really have no idea who the wide receiver 2 even is on the Washington football team. Like, there's just a couple of guys that it could be. Next one here to start off the 4 o'clock slate, we got the Miami Dolphins at the San Francisco 49ers. Now, Devontae Parker put up humongous big numbers up against the Seattle Seahawks. He dropped a straight up deuce right on their chest. Shout out to Odell Beckham Jr., who probably would have enjoyed that. Now, the 49ers defense is pretty good, but not the defense they begun the season with, obviously, due to a strong amount of injuries to that roster. Now, Devontae Parker has looked very good the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to continue to buy into him. Now, I don't expect him to have a complete and utter blow-up game this week up against the Niners defense due to the coaching from Kyle Shanahan, but I do think that at the end of the day, Devontae Parker is definitely worthy of a start. Now, for the Niners, I feel only confident really starting Brandon Ayuk in this game. I think Deebo Samuel will be a guy that I'm looking to start as the weeks go on, probably even next week. But I think the Dolphins defense is a little stronger than most believe. The cornerbacks are good. If Byron Jones ends up playing in this game, I'd be very worried for Deebo Samuel, and I feel like Deebo Samuel is still not 100% healthy, whereas I know Brandon Ayuk is, and as well as the usage they've been using Brandon Ayuk on all types of run plays and stuff, which adds fantasy points to him. He scored a touchdown in both of his last 2 games. For the Dolphins, Preston Williams just has been a complete and utter disappointment this season. This guy, He's just a shaking of a head. That's how I feel about him in reality. I'm a Dolphins fan. I really do like Preston Williams. I just have not seen enough out of him this season to believe in him. Isaiah Ford had a blow-up game last week up against the Seattle Seahawks. I just don't really expect that to continue this week up against the 49ers. Next one here, we got a snooze fest of the New York Football Giants at the Dallas Cowboys. But the snooze fest is really going to be because the Cowboys defense is so dick cheese that I feel like Darius Slayton's going to have a good game. I feel like this one's going to be relatively high scoring, but I'm not even sure if the Giants offense can score up against such a piss-poor defense, considering how bad that offense has looked. With that said, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup all starts in this game. Last week, I called for Cooper and Lamb and Gallup to all be starts. I was wrong on Gallup, but I did have Gallup ranked the lowest of the trio. With that said, that was pretty right. I think Gallup's going to have a bounce-back game here. I wouldn't be surprised if all these motherfuckers had over 100 yards, considering how much Dak has been having to throw the pigskin, even against teams that shouldn't even be in the game. The Giants may be able to crawl back into this one and put up a fight up against the Dallas Cowboys. For the Giants, Darius Slayton is really the only notable name there. Up against such a piss-poor defense, I feel like that deep down the field connection with Danny Dimes is going to be there, so I think Slayton is worthy of a start this week. For sits, I'm sitting down Golden Tate as well as all the other Giants wide receivers. Even up against this bad defense, I just don't have any trust in any of them really besides Darius Slayton, and my trust with him is kind of very thin due to the fact that Daniel Jones just hasn't looked all that good, and the offensive line is awful. Here we have another situation of a game that could potentially get canceled. The Broncos at the Patriots now. Again, I don't know enough to determine if a game is going to get canceled or not. I have no fucking idea. The only people who know are the people in the NFL. Everyone else is lying to you if they think they know what the fuck's going to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and assume this game gets played. But again, you really have no idea. So for the Broncos, I'm going to be fired up Jerry Jeudy in this matchup. I think that the Patriots defense, especially if Stephon Gilmore is out, because he's going to be, due to the fact that he's got the big Rona, Jerry Jeudy could definitely have a very explosive game in this one. Now, the quarterback play from the Broncos is very dicey. We really have no idea right now who the quarterback's going to be, if it's going to be Horsecock Drew Lock, if it's going to be Rippin, if it's going to be fat ass Jeff Driscoll, because that guy's got an absolute wagon behind him. Look up Jeff Driscoll's ass. God damn, that thing is fat as hell. It's just thick with 7 C's, Jeff Driscoll is. I don't know if you guys have seen that tweet. But with that said, Jerry Jeudy definitely worthy of a start, even with a confusing kind of quarterback situation, because he's clearly the wide receiver 1 on the team. Julian Edelman retired last game for the first half of the game, and then the whole Patriots offense unretired and came alive and was fired up for the second half of that game up against the Kansas City Chiefs, and Julian Edelman was very involved, even if it's Brian Hoyer or Jarrett Stidham. I'm not really all that worried for the number 1 wide receiver in that New England offense. I'm going to be sitting down Tim Patrick. Sure, he had a big game last week, and maybe he has another one here again, but I don't feel ultra confident in guys on not too good teams that aren't the number 1 option. On that team for the Patriots, N'Keal Harry has been very on and off like a goddamn light switch, so I have really no idea what to do with him, and when I have kind of no idea if I feel comfortable starting him, I'd rather just sit him and wait for him to do it multiple weeks in a row. I believe in the talent in N'Keal Harry. I just haven't seen it play out on a multi-week scale, and now without Cam Newton, with it being Jarrett Stidham, I feel even less confident confident. Next one here, we got the Indianapolis Colts at the Cleveland Browns. Now, we talked about it before. The Cleveland Browns absolutely railroaded. They went to town with zero use of lube in Jerry's World up against the Dallas Cowboys. The Indianapolis Colts win maybe the most boring game I've ever watched with my eyes up against the Chicago Bears. With that said, Odell Beckham Jr., I don't even like him. I don't. I feel like on a weekly basis, this guy is very inconsistent. He had a bad game, then a good one, then a bad one, then a great one. So with that said, maybe it's a pattern. Maybe he's good, bad, or bad, good, bad, good. Maybe that's the pattern. So maybe he'll have a bad game. But with that said, he's going up against the Colts. With how he's been performing, I'd find it very hard to sit him in this game, even if I don't feel ultra confident in him. So start him. But I don't really feel confident in him potentially being like a wide receiver 1 on this week. For the Browns, I still also like Jarvis Landry. Not an amazing start, but he's just the guy on a weekly basis. You put him in your lineup and you feel like, you know what, I'm going to get some points out of Jarvis Landry. He's not going to shit the bed, but he's probably not going to put up a top 5 performance on a weekly basis. For the Indianapolis Colts, T.Y. Hilton is washed up. This guy is awful. Just like A.J. Green, these two motherfuckers with the dots in their name are awful this season. T.Y. Hilton just looks like he lost all of his mojo, all of whatever makes T.Y. Hilton T.Y. Hilton. Maybe it's the fact that the quarterback play isn't that good, because Phillip Rivers has not looked all that good. He looks great in the bedroom, though, because he has 11 fucking kids. So T.Y. Hilton, not a good start here up against the Cleveland Browns, even if the Browns defense got absolutely raped, destroyed by the fucking Cowboys offense last week. Zach Pascal, not ultra confident in him either. Next game here, we got the Minnesota Vikings at the Seattle Seahawks. Now, this is a one where you just fire everyone out there, bang, 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 and don't even worry about it. Decaf Metcalf potentially for the wide receiver 1 on the week. This Vikings defense is absolutely putrid. It looks like they're not even starting 11 people at a time on the field, because there's just going to be no one guarding Metcalf or Lockett probably on half the plays due to the fact of how the Seattle offense operates. I expect both Metcalf and Lockett to have big games, even if Lockett had a down last week. Next one here for the Vikings. I like Adam Thielen as well as Jefferson in this matchup. They played up against the Houston Texans defense last week, which is obviously much worse than the Seattle Seahawks, but the Seattle Seahawks are no longer the 12th man of the past, and Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen should be able to have quite the good game here. I obviously like Thielen a lot more, but Jefferson's been balling out of control the last couple of weeks. He even did this and fucking hopped in the end zone, did some crazy ass celebration. I don't judge my players off the celebration, but I do like when they celebrate, and you're going to be celebrating a whole shit ton with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf in your guys' lineups. And final game of the week, drum roll please, the New Orleans Saints against the LA Superchargers in New Orleans in that beautiful dome bubble thing they have. Keenan Allen is definitely a start in this game. This guy is getting mauled with targets. He's getting peppered with targets. He's getting 7 zillion targets every single fucking game. He just is. This guy's just built different. Justin Herbert, the pervert, loves him some Keenan Allen. And last week he did have a down game, but the guy had 12 fucking targets in a down game, only had 64 yards. I expect him to get pretty similar amount of targets, at least 10 plus targets this week, and him to put up a higher point total than he did last week. Michael Thomas, if he plays, you kind of just have to play him. The slant god himself. I would say he probably does end up playing in this game. Since it is a later game, he gets another day to kind of feel ready. And for the sits of the Chargers, the Chargers, there's really just no one to sit. There just really isn't. Mike Williams, still kind of banged up. Don't really feel confident in him playing in this game. Traquan Smith is a sit if Thomas plays, as well as Emmanuel Sanders. If Thomas doesn't play, you could probably start both of them. Who do I have more confidence in? It would probably be Traquan Smith for me. He's put up 2 games consistently in a row, whereas Emmanuel Sanders kind of just in and out. He's hot and he's cold, like the icy hot that Shaq wears in those commercials. So thank you guys all for watching. I appreciate if you did have a great time. To make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure while you're down there, check out OverlayDFS.com, link down below in the description. Make sure you guys have a great rest of your guys' day, and I'll see you motherfuckers tomorrow with yet another banger of a video. Goodbye!